Okay, I think we're almost all back. Let me look to see if I can figure out who's missing today. Take me just a second here. Okay, I think I've got that down. Looks like we have 5 people missing, so that's not too bad. Hopefully everybody made the trip onto the next portion here, part 2. And I want to bring up something else here, so let me see if I can do that. Take me just a minute to get there, guys. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so this is the list. Let me share it with you. If I can bring it up, I don't see it here. Doggone it. Okay. Okay, I think you guys can see this. This is our list, correct? That's what you guys can see? Somebody let me know.
Yes.
Okay, I want to get to the other section and it wouldn't let me do that without doing some maneuvering. So here, let me get into that. There's. Okay, so this is what came out of section A. So I just wanted to look at a little bit of things that maybe we missed. They talked about researching the company, and one thing they talked about was the values and et cetera. We talked about looking for what the industry is doing, what their challenges are, what the news is about them. That was good. But also they talked about looking to see if the mission and the vision was a good match for you. And why this is important is because I usually, when I'm talking to students about this, I'll talk about organizational culture. And organizational culture is how things are done around here. So it's kind of how do people respect each other? How do they trust each other? How are decisions made? So I always say that if you make 2 circles, one is organizational values, and then another circle is your values. And how big is the intersection of those 2 organizations? You know, so the larger the intersection is that you have the same values, it's going to spell success for you and the organization. You want to be a good fit for that organization. Doing a mock interview was something else they came up with. You guys, would you put your pictures on too when you get a chance to, please?
Just letting.
Deb, I'm here. Don't you worry.
Sorry, even bad. I gotcha. So doing a mock interview. Come on, you guys, put your pictures up, would you please? Do your research on the position. We talked about that a little bit. Make sure you have questions. We talked about that. Bring the notepad, and again, having your talking points documented. So if you have a list of things you want to make sure that you share with them, again, you can click those off. So that you do have time to talk about those. Have your stories created. Remember we talked about, Matt, you quit bothering Sri. Have your stories created. So what are the good stories of success you've had in the workplace? Dress appropriately, we've talked about that. Scoping out the location, we talked about. Finding someone who works there. Someone thought it would be a good idea if they would send a note out to whoever is going to be interviewing you, just to say, I'm looking forward to our interview tomorrow. That just shows you know details and you're being thoughtful about it. Finding someone who works there, we talked about that. do research on salary. So we got all of those. I know Indeed is a good website to depend on. So during the interview, I think we talked about quite a few of these. Someone said, ask questions as the interview progresses to show you're listening. So if you want to know more, kind of tell me more is a good tactic. Be confident in your answers. One was to ask, what does a day look like in this position? Include that you're a problem solver. That's one of the number one things that people want to know, that are you a whiner about issues and problems, or are you a problem solver? Much better to be a problem solver. Advise that you're interviewing elsewhere. Ask what next steps will be. Okay. Now the post-interview, as we said, sending a thank you note, reaching out to them when the wait period is passed, reminding them of who you are and that you're still interested. And then when it's extended, give them a time period. If you do need to think about it, give them a time period, usually 2 to 3 days, and then respond within those 2 to 3 days. Don't make them have to come back, because they're not going to come back to you to ask for an answer. They're going to depend on you getting back to them. Okay? So that's it for that. So I wanted to share with you another thing I have here in Word that that were a couple of slides that were interview advice from Becca. So I'm going to open that up here, and hopefully you will be able to see that. And I'm not seeing it. So let me go back over here. I'm going to stop share. I may have to reload that. Share screen. Sorry, I'm talking to myself here. There it is. Okay, we're getting a little bit smoother at this, guys. Thank you for your patience. So you guys can see it, right? A couple slides from Becca's presentation. Okay, so what do they want from graduates? What are they looking for? This is Great America, but it's a lot of companies, okay? So that you're able to organize ideas logically and completely. You're able to persuade. You can understand and read intended message from other people's messages, and then be able to communicate with people from diverse backgrounds, right, guys? And then employer needs down here, facts, information's concise and efficient. So anyway, that's a couple slides I wanted to make sure to share with you guys. I think those are important. So let's go back out. Let's go out to the web now. And can you guys see the website that I brought up here? 21 job interview tips. You can't. Okay, let me stop the share and need to go back to sharing it again. Okay. So now you should be able to see that, correct? I know it takes a couple seconds. Yes, no?
Nope.
No,
You don't see the 21 job interview tips?
I only see Duat.
Thank you, bro.
Okay, let me go back out.
No, but we can't see anything.
Now I tried it again, gave you a couple more. Now do you see it? Yes, okay, good, thanks. Thanks, Rafa, I appreciate it. So here are tips before the interview. So I'm just gonna play this, and I believe you should be able to hear it and see it at the same time.
Arguably the most crucial part of the job search, an interview can make or break an opportunity. So to help you really prepare, we're going to dissect and analyze an entire interview from start to finish. I'll be sprinkling in a mix of tips about body language, etiquette, and how to answer common questions. Like, when exactly does the interview start? How do you deal with nerves? And how soon can you follow up? For years, athletes have used science and data analysis to improve. Now, we are doing the same for job seekers everywhere. This is job science. Meet Anya, a recent grad majoring in business administration. She's interviewing for an entry-level project management position. Note her posture. Head up, shoulders pulled back, no slouching, and no laid backness. The interview begins the minute you walk into the building. Anya treats everyone in the office with respect while keeping eye contact. From security personnel to receptionists, anyone you run into on your way in could be asked to give feedback on you. It's normal to be nervous. When nerves kick in, the natural human response is to take short breaths and breathe faster. Stay calm by taking a deep breath before entering. Hold it, count to 3, and then slowly breathe out. Pause. First, ace those introductions. Greet everyone in a way that is authentic to you, like, hey, nice to meet you, and then say their name. That one always works. You're more likely to remember their name if you say it out loud when you first meet. A lot of the time, small talk comes up before any questions. It's good to have a few current events or topics in mind. You can't possibly predict what they're going to ask, but you can practice answering the common ones, like, why do you want to work here? What makes you unique? Let's see what our interviewer asks.
So I want to hear more. Tell me a little about your experience and what you'd bring to this role.
Pause. When this is asked, they're looking to learn what makes you stand out. Be honest with your answers. That means having to pause and think for a second. That is all right. Think about your past experiences and how the role lines up with your future goals. It never hurts to be honest.
Great question. Ever since I was young, I've always been the organized one in my family. Whether it was helping my parents schedule vacations or color coordinating my closet, naturally that lifestyle got me here, project management. I've been a people person for as long as I can remember. Plain and simple, I love team building and making sure everyone has a part. Just the other month.
Oh, just really quick, don't speak negatively about previous places you've worked. Instead, talk about what you've learned.
I helped lead a team of 5 to deliver a 3-week sales project a few days ahead of schedule. I'd love to bring these things here.
Perfect. A response like this not only answers the question, but also shows off her personality. But remember, there's no one right way to interview and answer questions. Be yourself and let your personality shine. Be aware of your movements. Practice polite, confident body language. Subtly miming your interviewer's posture can actually create a sense of connection. Of all places, unnecessary movements are hard to ignore in an interview. Whether it's tapping your fingers or bouncing your leg, be aware and stay present.
Hey, it's been great chatting so far. I guess my last question is, do you have any questions for me?
Ooh, this is a hot one. Make sure to have a short list of questions for your employer in your back pocket. Ask the questions you would if you got the job. If tomorrow was your first day, what would you want to know from the manager? Even if you don't have any burning questions, asking a few shows that you did your homework and that you really care. Some include, what do you like best about working here? What are some mistakes people have made in this position? What is a goal you're currently working toward? How will my performance be evaluated?
Well, I did read that you're expanding your software team next quarter. I'm curious how you plan to carry that out.
The interview isn't actually over. Always follow up within 24 hours with a thank you email to the hiring manager. This can be a quick note simply thanking them for their time, or a longer one that elaborates on some of the things you talked about. It's key to leaving a lasting impression. This was the breakdown of an interview. Till next time.
Okay, so looking down here, tips for before the interview. So let's look there. I think we've talked about almost all of them. Researching the company and the interviewers. Practice your answers to common interview questions. One thing about practicing your answers, if they say, I'd like to learn more about you, make sure that you don't get so involved that you go back to, I lived in Iowa all my life and I in high school this, make sure that it's pertinent experience, information. You don't want to be babbling. So I think she did a good job there of talking about an organization about in her family, that she's the organizer. So what are some of your strengths and how do you demonstrate those? Rereading the job description. This is before the interview to make sure you're understanding. And again, you may be interviewing at 3 different companies at the same time for different positions. So just make sure that you are straight on who you're talking to. If you start talking about a data entry job instead of a sales position, of course that would not look favorable upon you. They're talking about the STAR method in answering questions. So what the situation was, that's what the STAR stands for: situation, task, action, and result. Practice with another person answering questions. The references are really important. References are really important. And I know I've shared with you that I would be willing to be a reference for you. And what I will do is if they did call or write for a recommendation, or you want me to write a recommendation, I would use what your subject is in your topic paper and just talk about you generally, but it makes it more impactful, I believe, when you're talking about things that you've done in the classroom that I can point to quite vividly, easily, and advise them to ask you about that also. Examples of your work, that wouldn't be a bad thing. Again, the list of references, make sure they're up to date and they're people that they can reach. And sometimes, if lots of times later on when you have worked somewhere for probably 6 or 8 years, when you look for another job, you've got to make sure that your references are still where they are, or have they retired, or are they in a different company now? The way people move, you need to be aware of that, okay? I really liked that he talked about not burning bridges. You never should talk about a company about so for example, they may ask why you're looking for another job. Well, this probably is going to be your first full-time job, but again, you do not want to, if you are leaving a job for some kind of circumstances, it could be that there's no opportunity for advancement, anything but this employer was a nightmare. Because if you're talking about your past employer like that, they're going to think that you would talk about them also in a bad way, in a negative way. So just stay away from negative, don't burn bridges. And again, there's times that I love to leave organizations with them thinking well of me, not I've aired all the grievances against them and wow, we're glad she's gone or he's gone. You know what I'm saying? You want to leave in good stead with your employers. I like these questions here down at the bottom here. Hopefully you guys can see them okay. Can you explain some of the day-to-day responsibilities of this job? What departments does this team work with regularly? Really good questions. Now here are some other, talking about planning your interview. This is tips for during the interview. Plan what you're going to wear the night before. Make sure that everything is clean and neat. Bring copies of your resume, a notebook, and a pen. Plan your schedule so you get there 10 to 15 minutes early. Make a great impression, okay? And I can't emphasize too much what he said about the gatekeepers. You're always going to see gatekeepers, and gatekeepers are the admins that you're waiting in the waiting room with them. You will not believe how valuable leaders and hiring managers depend on what was their impression of that person. So greet everyone with a smile. Just be very polite all the way around. Know that people are looking at you from the moment you walk in the door until you leave, even out in the parking lot. If you go out there and you start smoking right away or whatever, they're going to see that. They're going to see that. Not that smoking is that bad of a habit, but again, that would kind of leave a questionable impression. Okay, I've talked about everything I written down while he was talking. 16 was respond truthfully. That's exactly what Matt brought up, or no, it was Duarte that brought that up. Tie your answers back to your skills and accomplishments. Keep your answers concise and focused. We talked about that. So tips after the interview, asking about next steps, sending a personalized, okay, we've already gone through that. But these are just some really, really good tips for you guys to think about. And again, I hope that you save these for when you're actually starting to look for a full-time job or an internship or whatever. Let's talk about, we have quite a few minutes left here yet. Let's talk about what happens, what kind of questions during an interview are illegal? Do you guys know what kind of questions would be illegal to ask?
At what point of the interview? Like at any point of the interview, or
Yeah,
like in the
in the interview.
beginning or at the end, or
Yeah, in the interview.
like in my job interviews, I never asked how much I get paid. Like they told me from their self how much I'm going to earn by an hour.
Okay,
So
okay.
I never went there was like, hey, how much money am I getting? Like
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
continued and they were like, hey, we can offer you $10 an hour or something like that.
Sure. But what about questions that they ask you that are illegal?
They asked me.
Yes.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay. What's
Questions
important?
about background.
What's that?
Questions about background.
Well, questions about ethnicity.
Yeah.
But they can ask about your background or not.
What's that?
They can ask like where you're from without being racist.
Well, they really can't.
They
Yeah.
can't.
No. 'Cause
Like if, for example, like when I apply for a job here somewhere in the US, somebody's going to ask me about my accent for sure.
Sure.
And then they will ask me where I'm from.
Okay, how about on your resume, are you going to have your permanent address in Germany?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah, they can ask that, but it gets, there's other things. Maybe not where you're from. Maybe not where you're from. But what other questions about you personally can they not ask? I know you guys have to know some of these. Can they ask if you're married or not? They cannot ask that.
Why though?
Well, because that is it hasn't got anything to do with the job. So they may, if you're divorced, they may discriminate against you. If you're married, they may think you're not able to move wherever you need to move for the job. If they ask if you have children, they may think that you're going to be involved in your children and not able to dedicate yourself. So they, again, and let me talk about from the HR standpoint. We have HR majors in here? Nobody in this?
X
X,
HR.
okay, that's you, Matthias.
I'm in HR.
Okay. So Matt, you should be able to answer some of these questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was giving other people the chance to chip in.
Okay, sure. So from the HR side of this, if I'm an HR person, and I'm an upstanding HR person, a good person, I don't want you to share this information because that may cloud my judgment. So I can't ask those questions, and I want to caution you as interviewees, as applicants, not to share. And again, you may, when you're telling your story, you may say, I have 4 brothers and sisters and blah blah blah, whatever. But if they ask, are you planning to become pregnant in the next, you know what I'm saying? That those kind of questions have nothing to do with the job. Now the bona fide job qualifications, and I think they're BFQs. Is that the right, Matt? Does that make sense to you? Bona fide position qualifications. They can ask those things. Can you lift 50 pounds? Yes, I can. Can you speak English and German? Yes, I can. You understand me? That has to do with the job. But if they're asking you if you're married, if you're, if they could ask you, are you willing to relocate? That's a legal question. But as far as if you're what your status is, single, married, divorced, whatever, that is not. Any kind of question that has to do with sexual identity, that is not a legal question. Okay, so there's quite a few questions, but what do you do if they ask you an illegal question? What is your response?
Just be direct and upfront and polite. Say this is something that shouldn't really be asked in an interview, and I'm not comfortable answering.
Okay,
Okay.
you could say that. Another option would be very politely to say, could you tell me how this relates to the job qualifications for this position? Right? I mean, it's 50 pounds, being able to handle 50 pounds, that is a job qualification if you have to lift heavy things. But what does this have? How is this related to my ability to perform this job? And again, if they're not trained enough to know that those are illegal questions, then you probably don't want to work for them because they're overstepping. And so again, from the HR, I'll put on the HR hat now, and I'm asking you questions. If I ask you, what do you do in your spare time? I would stay away from hobbies and stuff are fine, but I would stay away from, I go to all my kids' activities. They're in softball, they're in baseball, that's telling them things that they should not know and could influence their decisions whether to hire you or not. And they don't want to know if they are above board good HR people. But I would advise you to possibly look up what illegal questions are. And we could do that even now. We've got at least 10 minutes now. So maybe this would be a good thing to, I'll just go out to the web and look this up and see if we can come up with illegal interview questions. There we go. But you do have to protect yourself. Well, it came up as a subject, but okay. What interview question topics are illegal? Can you guys see this? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So race, color, national origin, religion, sexual orientation, sex, gender identity, disability. Now, one thing they could ask an international applicant is if they have the right to work in America, in the US. And so when you get to Rockwell Collins, there's certain proprietary information that certain nations, they cannot hire people from that nationality, from that nation. And it's because of proprietary rights. So here's, what do you do if asked an illegal question in an interview? Go down here a little bit farther. Or the questions begin to follow an illegal trend, you always have the option to end the interview or refuse to answer the question. It says it may be uncomfortable to do this, but you need to be comfortable working at the company. So let's, we've got 10 minutes left here. I'll get that note out of the way. How to respond. So maybe it isn't what country you're from. Maybe that is all right. It's more how to respond. Can you guys see this? Yes, okay, how to respond to illegal interview questions. So it's talking a little bit about here, the Pregnancy Discrimination Act. And again, look at it, it says a woman may have a ring on. What a beautiful ring. Are you engaged? And now I know one of my people that I've worked with in the past in HR, she said that when she walks them back to leaving the company, she'll just say, what are you going to do this afternoon? And that's where some of these kind of things come out. And that's not, you know, I'm going to my child's softball game later on today, or, you know, it should be something that has to do not with giving any kind of family information at all. And I know to you single guys, this may not seem important, but it is really important. It is really important. So any other, we've got about 8 minutes left. Is there any, I wanted to talk to you about your resumes. I had the weirdest thing happen. I last week I saw that I had 2 resume drop boxes out there, and I thought that would have maybe confused some people. But then one of you told me that you had tried to post in one and couldn't post, so they posted in the other. And I think out of the 2 sections, I have about 25 resumes have been posted. But again, when I went into it this weekend, I could not find a Dropbox for the resume. If I looked in one place, I could see that there were 20, 25, and I could access those 25. But if I went to the table of contents and just put in resume at all, I did not come up with a Dropbox. And if I was searching for Dropboxes, I would not come up with a resume Dropbox. So I talked to Greg Innes,
Sari, off your phone, bro.
who is our friend from Brightspace, and talked to him about it. And he said that he could see there's 2 Dropboxes out there. But anyway, so if you have, I sent an email out to people that said, I have not received your resume. And if I did that and you have already sent it to me, then we'll have to figure out something. I put another Dropbox out there yesterday. So hopefully I will look at those and see if I can't get this dilemma figured out in Brightspace. I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense that it's out there as an assessment item, but I can't find it when I look for it in the table of contents. So I tried to look into it to see if there's anything I'd done wrong, and I couldn't find anything. So if anybody doesn't have any other questions.
When is that 4-page paper due again?
It's due today.
Okay, perfect.
But if Brightspace isn't there, you can't.
I thought it was due yesterday.
Because I'm gonna email you.
Okay, sounds good. I think it's today. What is today, the 14th?
It is today, but so what is going on as far as Brightspace being down and how we're gonna get it to you and everything?
Yeah, I'll tell you, don't worry about it until we find out that Brightspace is back up. I can't imagine that's going to take them past today. We just got another message right before class started that said they're still working on it and have a team working on it. So, and if not, you know, I mean, it's just if you've got it done, you know you've got it done. And if I have to, I will have people send it to me just so I can know who's worked on it and who hasn't. What we're trying to figure out is the 23rd is when the final paper is due, correct? Is that a week from today? It's a week from Thursday. It's a week from Thursday. So that's when the final paper is due. So keep working on that. And if Brightspace isn't up and going, I'll have you send it to me in emails because email is still working. Does that make sense to everybody?
So you just want us to wait it out till the end of the day?
I would say so. Or even tomorrow. Maybe if it isn't, I'll email you guys. If it isn't fixed by the end of the day tomorrow, then send it to me. Send it to me and we'll go on from there. But I'll let you guys know that. Just don't worry about it now. Okay? If you haven't taken the plagiarism quiz, get that done. It's only 10 questions, just another 20 points worth for you, or 20 or 25. I can't remember which. I think 25. Anyway, that's out there to get done. Your reference list, if you haven't done that, there's some people that have that hanging over them too. So just if you have any questions at all, let me know. And Rafa, we will talk after class, after we get everybody out of the classroom. We'll talk if that works for you still. Okay?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, but I also want to talk to you.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Do you want to just through me email Duarte, or you want to stay on?
Oh, Rafa can hear me. It's fine.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, so I'm gonna end the meeting now and stop the share of the screen. But you guys have a good week, and hopefully you're moving on in the assignments. If you have any questions at all, let me know.
You have a good week too,
You
Deb.
too, Deb.
Okay, thank you so much, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Mark.
Bye, Matt. Have a nice day.
Mark,
I'll see
I
you in a
love you,
bit.
Mark.
See ya. Oh, that's nice to hear from you, Luca. I got real fans out here.
Okay, we just got a couple more people to go, and then we're the three of us. So Ralph, are you okay talking in front of Seth if Seth is listening?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay, okay. I'm not sure if he's there, or maybe he hasn't just ended his meeting. So, okay, what can I help you with?
So I did the resume,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't know there was like a guidance to follow.
Okay. Did you see the worksheet that was out there?
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't. Okay. There's a
No.
worksheet.
I was
out there.
just gonna ask if I could just do it again and
Yeah.
do it
Yeah.
like the guidance.
Well, what I've seen
That's
from
what
other, is that the same question you have, Duarte?
Yeah, because now we can't like log into Brightspace. So what I was asking you is if you could send the worksheet so I could do it like by email or something.
Sure, sure. Okay, I'll see if I can do that. I'm not sure if I have, if there's somewhere else I can get it or not, if it's all out there.
Because like even if they fix the Brightspace, like it's getting late here. It's
Sure.
like 7:45 p.m. So that's
Sure.
why I was asking you.
Sure, sure. Well, don't worry about the deadline. We can work around the deadline. What I found is the resumes I've looked at so far, that worksheet just tells you all the different categories that you need to be in. What I can do is I can send you, I mean, I think I can send that to you. Let me see right now if I have that in my files here. If you guys can hold on for a minute.
Yeah.
And what I can do, what I have found is for example, one of the other international students, what he did is he went in and just filled out the worksheet, but that worksheet really, it said, talk about your education, and he had all of that there. So it's in a different format than a usual resume is. So what I will send you is some resume examples. How's that sound?
Yeah, that's fine.
Because
Yeah.
what it talks about first is what's your education, what is your experience, what are your skills and qualities. You know, that's
But are
what
you
I'm
also
getting.
yeah, okay, but are you also sending the worksheet though?
Well, that's I'm still looking here to see if I have it.
Uh,
It's not coming up. So let me see if it's, I don't know if I have the document in my files. Let me open this up and see if I can search for it. Or else I can probably find it on Kirkwood's website. Maybe I can find it there. Let me look.
did Matthias send it to you?
What's that?
Did Matthias send it to you already?